На денот вечерва правиме од Охрид, таму е колешката Славица Арсова. Цаци предмалку разговараше со помошникот државен секретар на Соединетите Американски држави Филип Рикер, како тој гледа на она што им се случува на Македонија во целиот евроинтегративен процес на земјата.
Да, Иван, ова беше одлична шанса да повторно се разговара со поранишниот амбасадор во земјава, а сегашен висок функционер во Стейт департментот, помошник државен секретар на САД Филип Рикер, кој пред 10 години го финишираше својот мандат во земјава и кој се уште има репутацијата на еден вистински голем пријател кој секогаш се залагал за интеграцијата на земјава во НАТО и во Европската унија. Од денешна перспектива тој се уште смета дека Преспанскиот договор бил визионерски со оглед на тоа што овозможил земјава да стане дел од НАТО алијансата. Но соочени со денешните пречки и новото вето кое се испречи пред Македонија, поднесено од страна на Софија, Рикер смета дека мора да се стартуваат преговорите со Европската унија, затоа што Македонија и географски и политички е дел од европското семејство. Смета дека историјата треба да биде оставена во минатото, што е навистина силна порака упатена одовде од Охрид до нашиот сосед, до Софија, до Бугарија. Предлагам во продолжение да го слушнеме разговорот со помошникот државен секретар на САД Филип Рикер, во кој разговараме и за постојната пречка, ветото за старт на преговорите со Европската унија, но разговараме и за Преспанскиот договор и за учеството следната недела на делегација на САД на самитот на Трите мориња и каква порака тоа упатува и до властите овде, но и до властите во Софија. По продолжение разговорот.
Ambassador Riker, first of all, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be part of our newscast. You were ambassador to our country in the period from 2008 to 2011. You came to Macedonia right after the veto at the Bucharest NATO summit. It became clear at that summit that without a decision on the name issue, without resolvement, we will not become member of NATO or the European Union. What was your impression at that time? Could you see Macedonia as part of the alliance in due time?
Well, thank you, Slavica, for having me. It's great to be back here on the shores of Lake Ohrid once again, where I very much feel sum doma. Yes, in 2008, when I arrived as ambassador, it was a difficult time, not just for your country, but for mine as well. We were very disappointed and frustrated by what had happened at Bucharest. But I could sense that there was a desire to move forward, and certainly on the part of the United States there was. And so now it's just great to be here a decade after I left as ambassador, while we celebrate 25 years of U.S. Diplomatic relations with North Macedonia, to see the tremendous progress that's been made, and most importantly, already to be celebrating 1 year of North Macedonia's entry into NATO as a full ally, as the 30th ally in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
We are now in, as you said, 3 years from the Prespa agreement. It's been a very tough decision for Macedonia, very tough choice to make this kind of agreement. But I would say that today it's not the central domestic issue. But still there are forces that are not accepting this agreement. Do you think that today there is uncertainty about the future of the document?
Look, I think the Prespa agreement was a visionary, courageous diplomatic effort, a result from that effort that took real leadership and was something that was admired greatly by the United States. We tried to play a role to encourage and help in that process, but it was something that was undertaken by North Macedonia and Greece and your leadership. And while we celebrate the Prespa agreement for what it accomplished, and truly it is considered a remarkable document, an example of modern diplomacy, I think people have moved on. I mean, you are members, allies in the North Atlantic Alliance, cementing your place as part of the transatlantic community. Your economy is growing and diversifying. Together, as President Biden says, we can meet the challenges, including the COVID pandemic, as we emerge from that, the economic regrowth that we need to see, the innovation that will be required to make our economies competitive. And to do that, we need security. And of course, NATO provides security. The 30 NATO allies working together under Article 5, pledged to defend one another. And so that is an enormous progress. And I think it was just great to come together these 2 days here in Ohrid for this PRESPA forum dialogue to talk about what the PRESPA agreement accomplished, what it means, but to see leaders from all over the region, from the United States, from the European Union coming here to discuss this, to re-energize the direction and the movement in the region, I think was really important. And that's why Secretary Blinken wanted me to be here and dispatched me after we had already been to the G20 ministerial conference and the other stops we made in other European capitals like Berlin, Paris, Rome. And of course, this follows on the heels from President Biden's first trip as President of the United States to Europe. Europe is where he came, where he talked about the importance of revitalizing our alliances, the importance of working together to deal with and address and overcome the challenges we face today. And President Biden is a great fan of this region. He knows the Western Balkans well. He knows this as an important part of Europe. As he says, what happens here matters, and it matters to us.
That's very good to hear. And how much it is important to the United States for the regional agreements to be implemented, I think it became even clearer after the extension of the executive order on sanctions, which now includes the PRESPA agreement also.
That's right.
But it also puts emphasis on corruption. How do you see this implemented in practice?
Well, President Biden has made very clear that fighting corruption will be a priority for his administration in our foreign policy, certainly because rule of law is so critical to democracy, to the values that we share, and to making our citizens see that democracy works, that governments can perform and deliver for the citizens. And dealing with corruption will be an important part of that. So the executive order that was updated to reflect developments over the last more than a decade is important. It reflects and includes reference to the PRESPA agreement because it is so important to what we see, not just for the region, but for our broader relationship around the world. And it just makes very clear that the president, in executing U.S. foreign policy, has these additional tools. And you may see those used and utilized. We keep an eye on these things because it matters to us as well. It's in the U.S. interest when we can see that our allies, that our friends are able to move ahead. And dealing with corruption is one element of that.
Ambassador, the expectation of the public that was even strengthened with the referendum campaign was that the PRESPA agreement will not only bring NATO membership, but also at least beginning of the negotiations with the European Union. Now we see a new obstacle on the way, the Bulgarian veto. How do you see the current situation and how do you comment on the veto that we're now facing?
Well, again, the PRESPA agreement was important in that, and as you know, it's more than a year ago that the European Union declared that both North Macedonia and Albania should begin accession negotiations. That's still their stated goal. Obviously, there is an impediment to that right now, something about which we're disappointed as well, and that needs to be overcome. I have every confidence that it will be. Because North Macedonia is a European country, Albania is a European country, and part of our foreign policy has also been to promote integration into Euro-Atlantic structures. We've accomplished that through NATO. EU membership, of course, is a long-held goal, and I'm quite confident that that process will begin soon.
The United States has been our strongest ally, I would say, helping us with the integration process, with domestic reforms, with democratic improvements in the country. So as our strategic partner, do you see that do you think that we will be faced once again with a very tough compromise in order to overcome the Bulgarian veto?
We're more than a strategic partner, we're your ally. And I think you're on the right track. This can be resolved. What you need to keep focusing on is the important elements of reform that are vital no matter what. These are steps that have been undertaken in this country over a period of decades with assistance from your friends like the United States because they're important for North Macedonia first and foremost. They make North Macedonia a better destination for foreign direct investment, which is something we all want to see. And so I think the elements are all there. The European Union has declared that already, that these two countries, North Macedonia and Albania, are ready to begin their negotiations. And that's what we want to see moving ahead as quickly as possible. And the United States will continue to be there with you as an ally, working in so many sectors, because we really believe in this country and what you've accomplished.
Sir, what kind of a message does it send that the United States are sending a delegation to Sofia next week for the 3Cs summit?
Actually, the 3Cs is an important initiative that I think can benefit the whole region. It is about infrastructure. It's about energy, diversification, innovation, investment, and that's something that the United States believes in for this region. The 3Cs is not about Bulgaria or any one country. It's about working regionally to, again, improve infrastructure, improve opportunities, and we are pleased to be a partner, not a member, but a partner in that. And I believe we will have officials that will participate virtually with video messages at the summit there to underscore what we believe is an important initiative. I myself attended when the 3Cs held its summit in Ljubljana a couple of years ago. And of course, we've all been frustrated by the inability to travel before that. But the 3Cs initiative is an important opportunity that is about the future. And that's really what we look at it for.
Are these kind of blockages of the region against what's the vision of the United States of integrated Europe, and does it leave space for third parties, for third powers to have their influence of misinformation and other kinds of influences in this region? And do you see that there is such influence by Russia and China at the moment?
Look, there are plenty of actors who don't share our vision and those of our allies and partners for a Europe whole, free, at peace, and prosperous. That's what we stand by. That's what has been the vision and the policy of U.S. administrations from both parties in the United States for decades. And I think that's what we will soon realize. We've seen enormous progress in that in relatively short periods of time. This region is full of history. As some have said, more history than it can consume. But most important is using history to help shape the future. And what we learn from history, we can't change history, we can change our future, and we also cannot change geography. And geography is what it is. We're here sitting today in this corner of Europe, and we want to see this part of Europe and our whole transatlantic space ever stronger, ever more secure, ever more prosperous. And I'm quite confident that that's where we'll be.
I hope that you felt like home being in Ohrid once again.
It's always a delight, and I can come back someday and take it a little easier, a little quieter.
Ambassador Rikер, thank you very much for this interview.
Благодарю.